Welcome to Getting Aligned, a human design podcast where we dive into the endless journey of self-discovery using human design. This podcast is created for individuals who want to know how human design can assist them on the road towards self-awareness, healing, and personal growth by uncovering the unique blueprint that shapes each of us. From practical insights to profound revelations, Getting Aligned will be your companion on this transformative journey as we collectively step into our purpose. Whether you're new to human design or a seasoned explorer, there's something here for everyone. So, grab your favorite beverage, settle into something comfortable, and let's embark on this adventurous journey of self-discovery together. It's time that we all rediscover who we were born to be. What's up, Soul Tribe? Welcome back. So we have arrived. Into a new age of newness. As of January 20th, Pluto, the planet of truth and transformation, entered into Aquarius. So Pluto will be our teacher for the next 19 years. We're going to be confronting the secrets behind things that we have either tried to bury unconsciously or consciously. This is the cycle of rebirth. And so for me, doing a deep dive in human design, Aquarius governs over gates 41, 19, 13, 49, and 30. The gate 41, which is also the first gate that the sun entered in the new human design new year on the 22nd. So happy human design new year, my lovies. I have been paying close attention to what gates were being governed by Capricorn and what lessons I learned over the last 19 years, and then what gates are being governed by Aquarius and sort of what lessons and themes am I going to be most likely learning and coming to grips with in this next 19 years. So, and actually, of all of those gates, the only gate that I actually have defined in my chart is actually 41, which is the gate of contraction. So for me, what the gate of contraction really means is noticing the desire to start anew, the desire to experience all the things that life has to offer you. Obviously, you want to do that via following your strategy and authority. But for me, things that I want to start anew with definitely include places to live, career goals, relationship goals, and things of that nature. And so I invite you to think about what no longer serves you, because in order to start something anew, you have to also let go of the thing that is sort of taking up space for that newness to come in, if that makes sense. So again, I invite you to think about what is it that is no longer serving you? What is it that you want to let go of in order to bring in that newness? So, in today's episode, I want to dive into the 9 energy centers, the 9 gems and jewels within a given body graph. Okay? So, in most people's body graph, and again, you can go to mybodygraph.com, plug in your correct birth date, birth time, location information, and then you'll see, what pops up. And you'll see triangles and squares and diamonds, and they're either colored in or defined, or they're white or undefined and open. Whatever is colored in is fixed. It is consistent energy that is projected outward through your aura. And whatever is white or open or undefined, this is where you are open to the influence from others outside of yourself. This is where we take energy in. And so human design, there's a saying that the planets are the teachers, the definition is the student, and the undefined centers are the schools. So again, planets are our teachers, definition is the student, and undefined centers are the schools. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with any openness, any definition, or any of that. Like, nothing wrong with your body graph, no matter what it looks like. And I had to say that repeatedly for myself, as well as starting off the conversation, because again, most of my, I guess, last 19 years, and I'm saying, oh snap, that's actually interesting. So basically the last 19 years, there was a lot of work that I had to do on self-acceptance of things externally, like visible identities and things of that nature. That's pretty much been the theme of the last 19 years. So at this point, it was important for me to understand that there's nothing internally wrong with the way that I operate. Energetically speaking, the way that I see the world, the way that I interact with the world, like I had to work through and work on, and it continuously comes up in different ways, that there is nothing wrong with the way that we're all designed. It's actually interesting because I had a psychic medium. I think that was what it was. I forget where. I was listening to someone talk about the concept of our souls coming into form and like choosing this. I think I was listening to an astrologer talk about, our souls coming in and choosing to come in at the exact time to learn, the karmic lessons in life and things of that nature. And then it was interesting because then when I got my human design chart read, the reader sort of said the same exact thing to me, but from a human design lens. And I thought that was really poetic, like a full circle moment. And he said, I'm like paraphrasing what he said, but he said basically, your soul saw your human design chart. It saw the type, it saw your profile, it saw the gates and channels, and met with your spirit team. And it sort of said, hey, this is, your spirit, your soul sort of said, hey, I actually think I want to live this life according to this, right? Like, I think that looks really beautiful. I think that looks really magical. And your spirit team says, okay, are you sure? That means you're going to have to, X, Y, or Z. And then your soul said, no, this sounds like so much fun. And then your spirit team said again, are you sure? This is what this means. And your soul sort of said, I'm so down, right? Like, it was almost like a conversation that your soul really was not being warned, but being told, like, these are the challenges and things you're going to face if you so choose this type at this, specific moment. And so for him to have said that, for the astrologer to have said that, I thought it was a beautiful moment that basically our souls, chose to come into the world, and understood the assignment early on. And then we went through school. We had our teachers teaching us different things. And I mean this from a planetary standpoint, like the planets are teaching us things and our undefined centers are teaching us things. And so I thought it was really beautiful, a whole full circle moment. But growing up, we're all going to be exposed to others in their auric fields, and their definition is going to have influence over our openness. We're going to take in their definition, we're going to take in their energy, and I think many people, it can lead to, mistaking these things for our own, and or, a deep craving to have that other energy, the other type of energy that other people may have, and sort of losing track with who we are and, sort of losing track with who we are. And so we can become hungry for that feeling, hungry for that definition, hungry for that energy that isn't consistently ours. And human design considers this all conditioning. It's unavoidable. It is inevitable. Like, it is just a part of life that we're going to be interacting, exchanging energy with others. And that's just the name of the game, right? And so it's a part of life to experience conditioning. And when I first heard about it, I was like, oh my God, we can totally avoid this. And then, again, it was like, no, we can't. We're beings, we have openness. And And that's just the name of the game. It says in human design, it says it takes about 7 years of following your process to really go through the process of deconditioning and learning to, fully accept yourself. I think when I was reading or listening to a video by Ra, the founder, I think this was at his 30-year mark that he was teaching human design, 27 or 30, something like that. And he was like, I'm still a newbie, even, 20 something years later of teaching human design and following my process. I'm still a newbie because I spent, the first, few decades of my life, completely swept up by the not self and who I'm not. So I think it's really beautiful just for conversation purposes. So I want you to think about, a question I want you to think about is, how do you typically feel when you are around others? And have you ever felt like there was something wrong or missing whenever you were maybe you were around others and then you left and then you were by yourself a little bit? I think the reason this is a question I have is because it made me think of, Jesus, what is happening? It made me think of sort of the first time I really felt like there was something wrong with me from an energy standpoint after high school. So right after high school and, graduation and starting undergrad, I spent a lot more time alone than I did around other people. And obviously a school day lasts a whole lot longer. So I was consistently being, around others who had, probably a lot more definition than me and sort of, lighting me up, if you will. And then going to undergrad, that was completely different. I felt much, slower, lower, tired, right? And so I automatically thought there was something wrong with me because I wasn't feeling the same way that I was basically my whole life, my whole childhood. And so for me, I think that was the first indication to realize that I didn't know then, but this was the first time I actually signaled, oh my God, there's something wrong with me, right? And so I'm just curious what your, experience was like. When did you first notice a shift in the type of energy that you have compared to, when you're alone compared to others? Feel free to DM me or send me an email. I just want to know. All right, so let's go back to the 9 centers. In human design, before we can talk about your type, we must understand the unique centers themselves, because this, in fact, determines what your type actually is. For the most part, we all have at least one center defined, with the exception of reflectors who have absolutely no centers defined or colored in. These centers are responsible for putting out energy through our aura, or taking energy from outside others through their auras or through the transits. The 9 centers are divided into 5 categories. And the root and the solar plexus are the only 2 centers that actually appear in more than one category. We have one manifestation center, the throat center, where all energy flows towards to give someone their voice or to give the ability to initiate action or expression. We have 2 pressure centers, the head and the root center. These pressure centers push energy towards one of 3 awareness centers. And these pressure centers with these pressure centers comes a desire to know or to perform. These are powerful energies, and neither of these 2 centers are directly connected to the throat center. We have 3 awareness centers, the splenic, the ajna, the solar plexus. And these centers are responsible for our consciousness of body, mind, and spirit, respectively. We have a total of 4 motor or energy centers, which are the root, solar plexus, sacral, and heart center. These are the true meaning of energy centers, as they carry the potent energy that helps us to move towards a specific purpose. And then lastly, we have one identity center, the G center, where the magnetic monopole is also located in the center of the mandala. This is essentially about love and direction. Again, whatever centers you have that are defined are the ones that are colored in, and the undefined centers are the ones you have that are white. Your defined centers are consistently available to you. They are reliable. The areas that are white are inconsistent, often determined based on who you are around or the transits. And so because they are based on others or planetary movements, again, this doesn't mean you will never have access to them. It just basically means that they're inconsistent. So let's dive into the 9 centers, beginning from the bottom, working our way to the top. So at the bottom of a body graph, you will see the root center. The root center is the pressure center that drives individuals towards taking action in life. About 60% of the population are believed to have a defined root, and 40% of the world are believed to have undefined roots. This means that 60% of the world are consistent in the way that they handle the stressors that life inevitably throws their way. And the root center is associated with the adrenal system, meaning that this energy is very potent, very powerful. With the center, we have the desire to adapt to all the things that life throws our way. As both a motor and a pressure center, the root needs to be filtered through the sacral, the spleen, or the solar plexus before it makes its way or journey towards the throat. And so looking at your body graph, whatever gates or channels are connected to your root, that really determines how you consistently handle life's stress. For those without a defined root, an individual is more likely to be inconsistent in the way that they deal with stress. They might be more susceptible to experiencing a continuous cycle of burnout. Undefined roots really take in the energy of others and they amplify. And that's the case with any area of your body graph that is open and undefined, meaning you take that energy in, but you also amplify it. So it's feeling it times 2. The person with an undefined root is burning through energy that is basically not consistently theirs. This is something that is it can be very intoxicating. It can be very addicting. If you move directly above the root center at the bottom of the graph, in the center, I'll say the center bottom, you will see this is the area that is the sacral center. The sacral center is absolute life force energy of the world. It is exclusive to manifesting generators and generators. Combined, they represent about 67 to 70% of the population. And this center is the hub of building and creation and expansion of human life. About 30% of the world do not have any sacral definition. That is the manifestors, projectors, and reflectors. And the sacral center is linked to our reproductive organisms as male, female, or non-binary individuals. So what sets manifesting generators and generators apart? Manifesting generators, they have at least one motor center. So that might be the solar plexus or the heart center. One of those two are connected to the throat center directly. What Ross says is a true manifester is an individual that has their sacral actually directly connected to their throat. He says, other than that, you are a generator with manifesting capabilities, but a true manifesting generator has a sacral directly connected to the throat. So the sacral center is, again, associated with sexuality, fertility, movement, vitality. It is designed to really respond to everything that it encounters in a really helpful, healthy, and consistent manner. This is really a moment-to-moment gut response, a gut sound that are here to, that is how the sacral communicates. So really honoring this communication leads anyone with sacral definition to their true power in life. It really does involve listening for primal sounds such as the which is an indication of a yes, the which is an indication of no, and then if there's generally no sound, that indicates a not right now moment. So individuals with an undefined sacral, they can easily work themselves into the ground by working on borrowed energy. And reflecting on how I graduated and navigated graduate school, and I was working nearly 80 hours a week, when I first found out about human design, I was like, well, how the hell was I able to do that? Like if I'm a projector and I have this undefined sacral energy, so basically that's who I was around, right? Majority of the time, you're most likely going to be around someone who's a generator because they are, combined manifesting generators and generators. They take up or they dominate the planet. And so I was basically living and operating off of that borrowed energy. There comes a wisdom from having open centers. There's supposed to be lessons and wisdom that we can learn from having openness in our chart, which is why there is no bad thing, or there's no such thing as being bad or good in terms of having defined or undefined spaces, because there is wisdom in that you're meant to learn. So with an undefined sacral, individuals who are not defined there really learn the importance of, like, when is enough, right? When am I going to not be exerting myself, working myself to the bone? So this center is the rule of thumb for individuals without a defined sacral is you're really harnessing your potential to get something done in a shorter period of time, roughly between 4 to 6 hours, depending on your specific chart and definition. Obviously, getting a reading can be really helpful with that. This will be the sword I die on, but I think a lot of reading is great, but really having someone explain to you and work with you through understanding your chart can be really powerful. And it really helps you to see how you are uniquely here to operate. And again, in the US, this is not the norm. We're structured with 8 hours of workday, probably an hour of lunch, half hour, depending on what type of work you do. And so work is obviously one of the areas in our lives where we are heavily conditioned to believe that we need to pump out 8 hours of work. And this is, this is inconsistent rather for 30% of the world who are undefined sacrals. But you can obviously learn much about working smarter and not harder for individuals who do not have sacral definition. Okay, so to the left side of, I'm like putting my hands up because I do this like left right thing sometimes when I'm not sure what the left or right is. So to the left of the sacral center is the splenic center. So the splenic center is one of our awareness centers. It's actually our oldest awareness center and the first awareness center. It really governs and rules our survival. With 55% of the world being defined splenic and 45 being undefined splenic individuals, you really get to see that half of the world truly operates on some level of pure survival instinct, scanning both internally and externally for threats at all times. And this center is really tied to our immune system and our spleen. And this center is also the one that we share amongst all species of life. Like, this is the one center that we all have in common: plants, animals, humans. And for me, this center is the true source of spontaneous decisions and judgment. The spleen is so silent. It whispers, it never repeats itself, and that decision can change hours, days, months, and definitely weeks, and definitely months. It changes. So it's really important to be in tune with your body and to be able to slow down a lot more so that you can become more familiar with the whispers of your defined spleen. Individuals with an undefined spleen center, they often enter the world feeling unequipped to deal with life. They don't feel that they have the ability to protect themselves, and they may cling to individuals who have defined splenic centers. Being around individuals with a defined spleen and you have an undefined spleen, they can create a feeling of safety and security for you, even if this person is harmful or not a nice, kind person, even if they are abusive, if they are harmful to you, because they have that defined center, you might find yourself feeling safe around them because of that definition. This leads to, in having an undefined spleen, you can also feel the pressure to make spontaneous decisions whenever you are around individuals who have defined spleen. So the key is really never acting on an impulse without tapping into your strategy and your authority. So to the right, all the way on the opposite side, I guess the twin opposite to in a body graph, the opposite side of the sacral center is the solar plexus center. So this is this is again a motor center. It's also an awareness center, although it says it's not, in human design, say it's not fully recognized as the spirit consciousness center yet. It still is undergoing its metamorphosis, and this is the thing that's going to help usher in the new age, the new wave in 2027, that the emotional center, the solar plexus, will be able to reach its peak, reach its becoming fully aware as the spirit consciousness center. This is one of my favorite centers, even though I don't have it defined, because there's, I think, so much polarization that happens in the world, where we say in society, like, men are non-emotional beings, women are emotional beings, which is not the case in human design. In human design, half of the humanity is defined, the other half is undefined. I just so happen to be a male who is non-emotional, but it doesn't mean that all men are non-emotional beings. And I obviously I became a therapist because of emotions and really understanding them. And so it's really a fascinating thing that I want to, probably dedicate a whole podcast episode on the solar plexus as well as the G centers. Both of those two are super, super, like, they deserve their own deep dive, if you will. And so, I think like I said, the solar plexus is undergoing a transformation to become a fully realized spiritual consciousness center. But it really does. The solar plexus pretty much influences the world around us. Individuals who are defined with the solar plexus, they very much experience internal emotional highs and lows. While those who are undefined, we tend to, and I say we because I am an undefined person again, we grew up oftentimes avoiding confrontation because we feel and amplify the energy of those with solar plexus. So I had two roommates previously to where I live now. I had two roommates who were defined, and it was like, I felt it was palpable. Like, sometimes I would start driving away from the home, or I would leave the house, and then I would start to feel like really calm and neutral. But going around emotional beings, like, you feel it times two. So it's beautiful how we operate, or how we feel when we're around other people compared to when we're alone. And then that's something I experimented with in terms of really being understanding and being comfortable with having no definition of a solar plexus. Is really like, how do I feel when I'm away from others versus how do I feel when I'm around others? And I just happen to know that my two roommates had defined solar plexus because I did chart readings for them. So, but the world is really profoundly influenced by solar plexus. Like, this is where music is born. This is where poetry is born, right? This is like, there's just so much of the world that wouldn't be where it is now had we not experienced, this defined energy of a solar plexus. But regardless of whether you're defined or undefined, we all need to learn to not attach or fuse with our emotions, or fuse with the emotions of others if you're undefined. We all can benefit from becoming observers of our emotional waves. For those with a defined solar plexus, there is no truth in the now. According to human design, there is no truth in the now. You must allow yourself to go through your emotional wave, your peaks, and your valleys. So right above the solar plexus is the heart center. The heart center has it has four specific gates, all associated individually with stomach, thymus, heart, and gallbladder. The heart or ego center drives self-esteem and willpower. The heart is connected to the throat, and so it really speaks on behalf of the collective. This is a powerful motor center. It has a huge influence on the world around us. 37% of the population have a defined heart or have a defined ego center. 67% of the population have an undefined heart or ego. So to have a defined heart center means you have a consistent way of recognizing your own self-worth and your own value. You really speak more from a space of an I, more often than not. I really doubt this is the case if you have a defined heart. I really doubt that. Well, I don't want to say that, but I think if you aren't speaking from a place of an I with a defined heart, you're going to be experiencing a lot of difficulties in life. Most of the people that I've read, they are not almost. The people that I have done chart readings for who have a defined heart, they are consistent in speaking from a place of I. It is really, so I think it's the norm for individuals with a heart center. But if you have a defined heart and you are not speaking from a place of an I, and I invite you to start practicing and doing so, you are consistent you have a consistent motivation towards life. Compared to those who are undefined hearts, they experience the pressure from you to be consistent and motivated towards life. And so for those with an undefined heart, honoring your strategy, honoring your authority, and not operating off of that pressure feeling is really going to be in alignment for you. Those with an undefined heart are often the ones struggling with being driven or feeling driven. And again, there is no right or wrong when it comes to having defined or undefined centers. It is okay. I'm going to say this again and again. It is okay to not always be driven, to not always feel like you need to have willpower if you have an undefined heart. The pressure, we are really at a pressure point. I feel it tremendously in terms of creating business, in terms of putting stuff out there for like social media and things like that. I really feel that it's like a really competitive nature to this. And I mean, that's the world that we live in, is to be better than to be better, to do more, to be more. Like, this is really truly conditioning at its finest, and it will drive us, completely bonkers. It'll definitely push us into our not self theme. I just think it's important to, especially for undefined hearts, to allow motivation to coming to you through following your strategy and following your authority. Each time that we place unrealistic expectations on ourselves, things tend to not work out. So again, I have constantly, and it still comes in waves of really, being, someone that wants to just give up on doing certain things because I feel this immense pressure to just, do more. If it's not, quote, working out, then you need to be doing more. Then you're not doing enough. Like, it's exhausting, energetically speaking, mentally, and the likes. So I really have had to step away from people who make me feel like I have to do more. Okay. So if you move to the left, just up a little bit, you are then going to see the center of the body graph, the center of the mandala. This is the diamond. This is the G center. The G center, associated with identity and love, is the seat of the magnetic monopole. It is the connection to our higher self. The G center is responsible for love, identity, and direction. This is going to be a whole episode. There's going to be a whole episode on the G center because it requires it, because it's that important. It's that monumental in our human design experiment to understand. But for now, I will say, again, this is in terms of love, we can begin to follow and tap into the power of our G center, whether it's defined or undefined, power of our G center, truly by loving who we are rather than seeking out that love externally. We are, again, beings who all experience, want, and crave and desire love and belonging. And in order to do so, we must be able to recognize ourselves to become our most authentic, our soul-filled selves, and enter relationships correctly, following strategy, following authority. The G center is associated with liver and blood. In terms of definition, 57% of the population have a defined G. They have a consistent, fixed way of self-identity, a sense of being loved. Individuals with defined Gs are consistently secure within themselves. They're walking in their direction towards their own mission in life. 43% of the population with undefined Gs, they have no fixed sense of self or identity. I remember the first few individuals I was talking to about human design in their chart, of course, eye rolls and like rejection, this notion was so apparent. It was like, yeah, you have this inconsistent way of identifying, which is like, that's not me. And I was like, oof, palpable, not self coming off of that, coming out of that. I was like, wow, that's true rejection, because that's what we do, right? It's the this and the that. It's like, if I don't have this, then it's a bad thing. Even if you tell someone certain things about their body graph and they're like there's a rejection with it because there's probably an over-identification with it, right? And then sometimes I just say, okay, maybe you found who you are and this is no longer, something you're searching for, right? It could be a number of reasons why it doesn't resonate. But I just think it's mostly because we see things as good and bad. And so to tell someone, oh, you have this this inconsistent way of being, in terms of self-identity, there can be a little bit of a resistance. But again, according to human design, those without definition, your identity is your true identity is a flexible identity. It is meant to be, you are meant to be a chameleon. You're meant to be able to go into different spaces because you're assessing, you're analyzing, you're checking in with your environment and finding out whether or not this place, this people, this group is aligned for you, if it's supportive to you, or maybe you just don't feel safe expressing who you are in certain spaces. That again indicates that space is not for you. But that is unique. That is a unique gift for individuals who have undefined Gs. So it's good to not have this consistent, you don't have to show up and say, this is me all the time. You might come in and you're analyzing a room and you're like, yeah, I'm going to be on the reserve side. I'm going to step back, right? Whereas someone with a defined G, they're going to go into a room and they're just like, this is me, take it or leave it. So there's beauty in everything. There's beauty in not having definition of a defined G. And again, you're entering a space and you're checking for undefined Gs. You're entering a space and you're really checking to see if this place is energetically correct for you. So there's this concept of your direction. So for those who have a defined G, I say, like, imagine we're all going from, and I don't know why I'm saying this, but we're all going from Mexico to Canada. Mexico is our birthplace, or original place that we're all starting, and then we're all trying to work our way up to Canada. That's our end destination. Those with the defined G, you're like you're headed straight from Mexico to Canada, like uninterrupted. That's your destination. You know where you're going in life. Whereas those with an undefined G, you're headed towards Canada, but you're definitely detouring to California. You're heading to Florida. You're heading you're zigzagging all over the map. You're tasting a little bit of everything that life has to offer you as you still make your direction towards your true north, towards Canada. You just so happen to be someone that you're taking you're taking detours in order like to get there. And so again, beautiful thing, because you're not just, you're not fixed in this way of like heading straight there. You're like wanting to taste the taste and explore the things that the country has to offer you, if that metaphor helps. So this is a little bit of an exploration again towards helping you get towards your path. Relationships with others really matter when you have an open or undefined G, because in those relationships, it actually helps you to reveal the right direction and the right people for you, and that right special person that we're all looking for. So right above our G center is our throat center. This is the home of manifestation as communication, manifestation as action. 72% of the world have a defined throat. 28% of the world do not have a defined throat. Another one of these pain points, when you tell someone that they're not a manifester or a manifesting generator, they believe that they can't practice the art of manifestation. So remember, in human design, this was not created to be a spiritual tool, although it is used as such as well, and for myself included, that was not the original, it's not sort of the original intention behind it, as much as it is a tool of in practice of self-love and exploration. And so in sort of that spiritual version of manifestation, like anyone can practice manifestation in that sense. This manifesting generator, basically it's referring to the person's ability to consistently communicate or express their own human experiences, again, in a consistent or fixed way, or initiating action. And if you're undefined, you do not have a consistent way of communicating, expressing yourself, or initiating action. So I hope that helps in terms of distinguishing like what is manifesting, as a spiritual practice versus what it means to be a manifestor or manifesting generator. You, as a man-gen or a manifestor, you consistently have a way of communicating and expressing what is going on. You have a consistent way of communicating and expressing your human experience. You have a consistent way of being able to, or fairly consistent way of being able to initiate action in others. For those who are, when any of us are expressing ourselves, we tend to be operating off of one of the 11 themes of the gates within our throat center. So if you have, even if it's not a defined throat, but you have gates connected to it, most of the time when you're expressing yourself, it is through those channels, those gates. That you're actually expressing yourself. Those with a defined throat center, and if it's connected to a motor center, if it is connected to a motor center and it is a defined throat, you are always able to initiate action and communication. But you have to follow your strategy and authority always. Always. So those with undefined throats, you often engage in action as a means, if you're trying to force yourself to engage in action as a means to attract attention, you're engaging in a not self theme. You're engaging in your not self. Those with undefined throats really can struggle with silence and feeling the need to fill that space. But it's important to not always attempt to voice without following strategy and authority. You don't want to continue to place pressure on your throat. Okay. Right above, so this is the second from the top, is the ajna center. The ajna center is associated with the neocortex, the visual cortex, the pituitary gland. It is commonly referred to as the third eye. But in human design, the ajna center is our mental consciousness center. It is our mental awareness center. It is the second awareness center to be created after our splenic center. So approximately 47% of the world have defined ajna, while 53% of the world are undefined. The ajna center and the head center together collectively form the mind. But the Ajna center is here to receive inspiration from the head center. It is here to conceptualize it and transform it into useful information that is then translated to the world around us via the throat. That is sort of how it works. Head is inspiration, Ajna conceptualizes, throat communicates. It is this awareness center was created right before the solar plexus came into creation. So in terms of the awareness center, splenic was first. Ajna is more powerful than the spleen. And then the solar plexus is more powerful than the Ajna center. But the Ajna center is very analytical, constantly evaluating. It's like creating mental lists, putting things in a category. This is good, this is bad. This is positive, this is negative. It really is an ongoing battle trying to determine what is right and what is wrong. This versus battle, we never let go of. We're constantly perpetuating whether we were doing something correctly or whether we were doing something incorrectly. Fear manifests differently in every channel and every center, but with the Ajna center, fear translates to mental anxiety. So individuals with a defined Ajna center almost always conceptualize things in the same manner. They're here to influence and inspire others and get them to think. Individuals with a defined Ajna center are constantly thinking. Their mind is always on. It's like a switch that is always stuck in the on mode. Individuals with a defined Ajna also struggle with, or can really much struggle with, meditation piece. Definition, if your Ajna is either defined to head or throat, and individuals who have a defined throat and a defined Ajna center, you're almost always speaking from a position of your strategy and your authority. It's just not allowing yourself to become reliant on your mind, which can often lead to wasted energy. So undefined Ajna individuals are open and they're flexible in the thought process. Again, following your strategy and your authority is super important without being ruled, and to avoid being ruled by your not self. You're here, if you're undefined, you're here to see the value in any and all concepts, and you also discard the principles and things that don't truly matter. So despite the fact that you take in all of this information from the world around you, you can let go of the need to be certain about anything. And I actually practice this as a mantra in a meditation, that I release the need to be certain. I release the need to be certain. And I sort of use that in my mantra work whenever I'm stumbling across new concepts. That's all I'll say about that. And then lastly, we are at the last center, at the tippity top. This is the crown chakra, or the head center. The head center is one of our pressure centers. Again, this is located at the crown of the head, correlated with the pineal gland, and it deals with the mental pressure of trying to understand the whys of life, as well as the pressure to seek and experience inspiration. So approximately 30% of the population is believed to have a defined head, while 70% is believed to have an undefined head center. So that means 30% of the population have this fixed, consistent way of understanding the whys of life. They, asking those questions. They also have a consistent way of having inspiration, while 70% are constantly feeling the need to seek out the whys, to constantly find the need to seek and find inspiration. So this again leads to the not self theme. Leads to engaging in not self-talk. Individuals with a defined head center, you have a consistent fixed way of thinking according to your gates or channels that are defined. You are here to impact others with your aura, to engage others, to be inspired. Simply observing is important regardless of definition or not. Being an observer of your thoughts can help reduce anxiety and self-doubt and depression. Individuals with an undefined center, you can really get lost in trying to solve other people's problems for them. You can really get lost in trying to find and seek inspiration. Again, I've been guilty of this. By the way, the only centers that I have defined are the root and the spleen. So I really can resonate and relate to the not self experience, specifically of the other 7 centers that I do not have defined. So I definitely speak from, again, personal experience in terms of not having definition in, let's say, the head center. And so truly seeking out, or where can I go to be inspired? Or, jumping from topic to topic to topic in search of that quote unquote inspiration, because I have no consistent way of pulling in information. So it's really about mastering, this, just like the Ajna Center, really mastering the art of being an observer of your thoughts. Practicing mindfulness strategies is crucial. Mindfulness does not mean meditation. Mindfulness means being in the moment with an experience that you're engaged in. So that could be journaling, being a mindfulness practice. Meditation, being a mindfulness practice, right? Meditation is mindfulness. Mindfulness is not meditation necessarily. But we can all benefit from being the observer. I think I want to create a YouTube channel with just doing meditations or mindfulness practices, something like that. I think I want to do something like that. So again, it is important to recognize that being an observer of your thoughts rather than trying to figure out where's this inspiration coming from, where are these thoughts coming from, just be an observer to them and recognize them, which is really difficult. I acknowledge that. I want to honor that. So those with a defined head center, just like a defined ajna, they also might find it very difficult to engage in meditation practices. Regardless of whether you have definition or not, it can be very difficult to engage in any practice if you're not familiar with it. So I want to preface that. None of this means you can't practice something because you have definition or not. I can also see why having an undefined ajna and head center, for those who have these centers undefined, can easily be overly diagnosed in the mental health realm, ADHD being one of the most prevalent things that are, being diagnosed. I think in some way there may be truth to it, but there also may be an over-identification with, I need to have my mind operate this way. If it's not, then there's something wrong with it. There was actually a video that Ra released that I watched, where he talked about ADHD. And I'm someone that was diagnosed with ADHD, but when I look at my human design, I have enough energy to get whatever it is I need done. It just may not be doing what other people want for me, or I have an open ajna center and I'm constantly being stimulated from the world, and so I can see why that then makes it, maybe this person has ADHD, right? But maybe it's you just amplifying the inspiration and thoughts and things from those around you. There's so much. I can go on tangents, and I will go on tangents. That's the point of all of this. Anywho, being open in the head center, just have fun with it. Wherever there's openness, you can have fun with it. I told my client to think of this as a game of adventures, right? Being open to the unknown, being open to the wonders of the world, and observe those experiences rather than being fixed to those experiences. So taking a look back now at your body graph, checking in for what's undefined. I'm going to go through, read some questions that I want you to ask yourself. If it is not colored in or undefined, this is an indication that you can be engaging in the not self theme. So I'm going to go again from the bottom to the top. So for the root, the questions that I wrote down were asking yourself, am I trying to pressure myself into doing? Am I telling myself I need to hurry, that can be an indication of operating in the not-self theme. For the sacral, asking yourself, am I aware of when I've hit my limit? Do I tell myself that I need to do everything by myself? If you have an undefined spleen, are you holding on to things that are not good for you? Do you often feel inadequate and then tell yourself, well, I shouldn't do this thing because of that? For the solar plexus, if it's undefined, do you avoid confrontation? Do you operate out of fear that things are not going to work out? You're not going to be able to experience the things that life has to offer you. If you have an undefined heart center, are you trying to prove yourself? Are you trying to get people to like you? Are you trying to prove that you're a good person? For the G center, are you allowing yourself to be open to things coming to you as they're meant to come to you? Are you asking yourself, where can I go to find my specific person? For the throat, if it's undefined, are you trying to attract attention? Are you trying to force yourself to be seen? For the Ajna center, how can you release the need to be certain? Do you operate or fear that if you share something, people will consider something, that there's something wrong with you? And then for the head center, ask yourself, whose questions am I trying to answer? Or am I trying to find some form of inspiration? So I hope this was helpful for you as it was for me, reiterating some of the basics and really diving into the undefined and defined centers as they are. And even as I'm having recorded this, I'm going back to this mental checklist of where am I, where am I operating in my not self, right? So this can be really helpful. Save, download on wherever you're getting your podcast from, and use this as a reference or resource if you so choose to. So yeah, I look forward to releasing again another episode. So thank you for joining me here at the Somatic Human Design Podcast. Have a good rest of the day.